Republicans are panicking across the country as they see Donald Trump and his regime collapsing. They see Trump in freefall. Trump's approval is negative 38%, the worst in modern presidential history, and it seems like it's only going to get worse. You have MAGA Republicans like Vivek Ramaswamy, who have attached their entire identity to Donald Trump, just going down the rabbit hole even further. You have other Republicans like on Capitol Hill, Republican Senator Tom Tillis of North Carolina and Lisa Murkowski and others who are calling out people like Kristi Noem and Stephen Miller, and they're trying to act like it's Miller's fault and it's Kristi Noem's fault, and they're the ones giving Donald Trump bad advice, which they are, but it's also Donald Trump's fault. It starts at the top, and this regime is led by the worst of them all, Donald Trump. And I think as we head into this 2026 election season, there's a big lane open for Democrats right now as these Republicans panic before our eyes. Let me show you. I mean, this is Tom Tillis, Republican senator from North Carolina, calling out Stephen Miller and Kristi Noem. Watch him call out Stephen Miller and Kristi Noem right here. Let's play this clip.
I mean, at one point she thought FEMA should be eliminated. To give you an idea of how incompetent I think she is, she actually thought FEMA should be eliminated. And when she had a FEMA director who said he didn't think that was a good idea, she fired him within 24 hours. Now she understands that that is an important part of her job. These are like amateurish assistant manager sort of thought processes going into somebody who's a secretary in a cabinet level position. It's unacceptable.
Does she need to step down? Does she need to?
Stephen Miller is in the same boat. This guy, after doing the stupid comments he made about Greenland getting the president in a difficult circumstance, is one of the people that came out publicly and said that this guy was a terrorist before he had even talked with anybody on the ground. And that's clearly not the case now. So, I mean, it's just, I mean, Stephen Miller never fails to live up to my expectations of incompetence.
Why do you think he should resign?
Fired? I'm going to leave that up to the president. I can tell you, if I were president, neither one of them would be in Washington right now.
But do you think Noem should step down?
I think Noem needs to decide what, I think if Noem looks at her body of work, I could not be. If I were in her position, I can't think of any point of pride over the last year. She's got to make her own decision, or the president does, but she has taken this administration into the ground on an issue that we should own. We should own the issue of border security and immigration, but they have destroyed that for Republicans. Something that got the president elected, they have destroyed it through their incompetence.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator.
Have a good evening.
And you have Lisa Murkowski, senator from Alaska. Here she is calling out Kristi Noem and saying that there's no confidence in Kristi Noem from her. Play this clip.
Senator, do you have faith in Kristi Noem as DHS secretary?
I've already made a statement on that.
Oh, I wasn't there for it?
Yeah, I have said that I've lost confidence in her.
Do you think that President Trump should remove her from the position? Do you think she should resign?
That's obviously up to the president. But I think we would be better served with new leadership of the department.
And if she doesn't leave on her own volition, or if the president doesn't fire her from the position, would you support something like impeachment?
I have expressed my lack of confidence in her, and my voice is out there, and we'll see what happens.
And one more question: is it just is this just because of how she handled the Alex Preddy shooting, or do you think that it's a greater issue?
I think that as I mentioned to just that reporter there, I think that there are other issues. I supported her. I supported the nomination. I had great hopes for her in the department, and I've been disappointed.
Do you regret that vote?
I just said I have been disappointed.
Got it. Thank you, Senator.
But then you have Republicans like billionaire Vivek Ramaswamy, whose money and wealth comes from very questionable sources and business enterprises, in my opinion. That isn't giving you my opinion. And he's out there just kind of chasing Trump further down the rabbit hole. And he's out there, he's running for governor of Ohio, and he's saying costs aren't going up. Things are amazing. People just feel this way. No one actually is experiencing it in reality. It's just a feeling. Here, play this clip.
But there is meaningful room now to tackle those issues of affordability, to tackle those rising or perceived to be rising costs. The way that we do it is increase.
it's just interesting as I reflect on, billionaires like Vivek Ramaswamy, who have used their wealth to inflict harm. But, there is a billionaire out there who is running for governor of California, who's been an activist, and he's been fighting for people's rights. And he left the private sector, and for, the most of his adult life now, he's been fighting for people. I want to bring him in. He's running for governor of California, saying, I'm a billionaire, tax me more and tax people like me more. We need to be paying not just our fair share, but we need to be paying more. Let's bring in Tom Steyer, Democratic candidate for governor of California. And Tom, people know your background, but for those who don't, you started a hedge fund in 1986. You found a bank. You become a billionaire. Then you become an activist helping out California and fighting for the people of California throughout your life. You're running for governor right now. And the platform that you're running on is people like me, amongst other things. And we'll talk about other stuff. I want to pay more money in taxes. And you penned an op-ed about it. Talk to us about it, Tom.
Look, the state of California, there are two things, huge things going on. One is the inequality in this state is incredible. We are creating an enormous amount of wealth for a very small number of people in this state. And the majority of people in this state are struggling to make rent. We have the highest percentage of people in poverty in the United States of America and the highest in inequality. Second of all, we really have a revenue challenged state. An awful lot of that is due to Donald Trump's criminal administration in Washington, which wants to take California's money and not send any of it back for services. That's a huge challenge. But in the meantime, people need healthcare. Young people deserve first-class education. We have real needs on the ground. And we have a tax structure that is not, it's honestly, we need to restructure how we're doing taxes. And what I've said is, look, we are creating immense wealth for billionaires. The biggest corporations in the world are here. They're here because California has invested over decades and a century in an ecosystem that works to start and build companies, which is great, which I'm entirely in favor of. But the truth is, we need a state where everybody gets brought along, where we deliver the services that Californians need and deserve. So we absolutely need more tax money. I have proposed specifically closing two corporate loopholes that will bring in $15 to $20 billion a year for health and education at the local level. So I'm very much looking at this structure, thinking about what our state should stand for, and trying to represent the underrepresented working families of this state who cannot afford to live here and are not getting the services that they need and deserve.
Now, Tom, I hope I don't offend you here, but this is going to be a question that I'm sure you get asked. Billionaires right now are not the most popular of people, and you're a billionaire. And lots of people saw the president of the United States, who said he was a billionaire, but now he clearly has made a lot of money grifting off the American people. But who knows the status before? But there's no doubt that he's basically looted and pillaged this country. And he made all of these promises and da-da-da-da-da. What do you say to people who say, not another billionaire telling me this, that, and the other? They're just going to do what the billionaire said. How do you push back against that?
Look at my life. Yes, I started a business, it worked out, and I made a lot of money. I also walked away from it 14 years ago, full-time, to be an activist for working families. And I've been able, because I have money, to take on corporate interests that were taking advantage of Californians. And I've taken on and beaten at the ballot box corporate interests that no one thought could ever be beaten. The oil companies, the tobacco companies, the multinationals who were jimmying our state income tax, and I'll continue to do it. I will also say, as an example, you said I started a bank. My wife and I started a bank 20 years ago that is a nonprofit community bank where every loan is measured in terms of economic justice and environmental justice. So when you say, I'm telling you, I will take on the interest because I don't owe them anything. I will never owe them anything. I am not beholden to them. And that's why I'm the person who took them on in the past, because other people weren't willing to. And I will take them on in the future. I am the billionaire who will take on the billionaires. And you can look at my life and say, that is what I've been doing. That is who I am. And I get results. Californians have heard a lot of talk. I think it's time we actually get results and make the changes that are necessary so people can afford to live here. I mean, we can talk about housing. We can talk about my goal and my program to end the electric monopolies that charge us twice as much as the average in the United States of America.
Let's do it. Let's get into the weeds. Let's start with, let's go that one first. Let's go. How would you take on the right now? Energy prices are through the roof. When I get my energy bill, sometimes I wonder if that was, I look at it, I don't even know how to describe it. I'm like, you sure that comma's there? Is it after the comma or is it before the comma? So how do you take on the electric monopoly?
That system differently from all the other people who look at that system. And I look at that system as somebody who's looked at how businesses run hundreds of times or thousands of times. And there's a rule in looking at businesses. Monopolies deliver something different from any normal business. And we have legal mandated electric monopolies. Here's what monopolies do. They produce the worst service at the highest price because that's what they're interested in doing. And if you don't like it, in most businesses, you go to a competitor. But you know what? We're a monopoly. So you have no choice. This will I have a program that starts with oversight at the Public Utilities Commission, understanding their incentives are warped, understanding they're just doing what they're paid to do, but that's got to stop. But what we really need to do is introduce local competition, microgrids, rooftop solar generating electricity for the locale. We need to put their feet to the fire so that, in fact, they understand they can't continue to charge these prices because people won't use them. There has to be competition introduced. And that's what I'm talking about. Ending the legal monopolies they have so people can't change and can't go to a lower price service.
Let's talk about housing in California, because it could also be a template for other states you're planning. You know, one of the things that I've thought about, housing's that, like, you know, bar none, I think one of the
that's the big cost that's eating up a third, a half of people's incomes.
Right.
Way too high.
And when I think about, you know, these masked agent Gestapo running around kidnapping people, and I see at a federal level how much money and resources our government has spent to terrorize and torture Americans, and all the horrible things that Doge did, I always thought, could you imagine if someone like an Elon Musk, who actually came, it doesn't have to be, Elon's a terrible human, but someone like that, you know, though, goes in there, you know, and with a president who's business oriented, they put the same resources they've put torturing the American people to putting up homes. And rather than seeing masked agents terrorizing our communities, we looked around and we see homes coming up in all of these places. And then they were building I'm like, this would be it. Everyone would be happy. And
Thank you, Ben. Thank you. That's my vision. Look, when you think about housing, you've got to think about a couple different things. You have to think about the people who are renting, and you have to think about the people who are trying to own a home. First of all, I'm for rent control. And I'm for rent control because people's rent is way too high, because for policy reasons, we haven't been able to build houses in the state of California for going on 20 years. And that means the existing housing stock, the rental apartments, have so much competition for them that the landlords just keep raising the price. So policy failure has discriminated against renters at a shocking level, and we need to put a stop to it in the short run. Long term, we need to build houses. Absolutely. The thing that you pointed out, we're making it an urgent issue to solve all of the problems that are preventing us from building affordable housing have to be addressed with urgency and priority. And that includes the permitting process, the zoning, and beyond that, the ability to build at a lower cost per square foot so people can afford to buy. There's a number, it's a cliche. There's no silver bullet. There are silver buckshot. And we need urgency at every step along the way so that we can build houses in this state for a price that people can afford.
So many CEOs have bent the knee to Donald Trump. They've capitulated. Their silence is complicity, or in the case of Tim Cook hanging out at the White House, watching this freaking Melania movie, complicity is complicity, or bringing golden bars to Donald Trump. And, leaders who I once respected, I don't anymore. And these are such a critical moment where, you'd hope that people stand up, and I guess here's a point that I want to ask you as well. When I've always heard people use this term, and I don't love this term because it's a crappy term, but people are like, I've got FU money, I've got this FU money. And I'm always thinking, well, if you have FU money, why would you want to spend your whole life now, after building up wealth and whatever, having Donald Trump basically boss you around? Like, what's the point of FU money if you have to bend the knee to Donald Trump of all people? So I'd love your perspective though on CEOs in general, and the way they've behaved. And for you as a successful business leader, why do you think these people who why do they do this? They need that much more. They need $50 billion, $3 billion is not enough.
No, it's not. Look, let me say this. One of the great disappointments of 2025 and 2026 is that the leaders of civil society have refused to speak up. The silence is deafening. The idea that they haven't stood up and spoken about murder on our streets, about the invasion of Minneapolis by a lawless, reckless ICE organization that can do what it wants with impunity, to me is amazing. And so to a very large extent, if you're going to be a leader of civil society, you have to stand for something. And their silence implies that the only thing that they stand for is money. The only thing that they're willing to fight for is their bottom line. And look, I have been a business person. I went to business school. My point is, if that's true, and you can't stand up for democracy, the rule of law, you can stand by for cold-blooded murder of American citizens on our streets. Okay. But then you forfeit your right to be a leader. You forfeit your right to talk about things that are not about money. Okay. If you're just a cold-hearted business bank machine, okay, I understand that. And, that's part of our society. But that's a part of our society that doesn't get to talk about education. It doesn't get to talk about the rule of law. It doesn't get to talk about Martin Luther King. All you get to talk about is business and money, because that's all you care about. And I think that is, I want people, if you're going to be a leader, stand up. If you're not going to stand up, you don't get to talk. Sit down and be quiet, unless we're talking about your money. And that is a sad state of affairs, because the truth is we've built up these and nurtured these institutions that are strong, world-leading institutions now going along out of fear, because every one of them is worried that if they stand up, no one else will stand up with them, and therefore they'll be attacked. And they're right. They might be attacked. But you know what? That's the way it goes. Someone is invading our country. Someone is killing our citizens on the streets with impunity. It seems to me that's a line that if you can't stand up for that, I don't know what you can stand up for, to be honest. And long term, what Donald Trump and his administration are doing is so destructive to America, so destructive to our economy, so destructive to our way of life that has been built up mostly by poor, uneducated people sacrificing for hundreds of years to build up this society. And so not being willing to stand up for that society, not being willing to honor the people who built it over hundreds of years at risk of life, at loss of life, I just don't think that's okay. I don't think that's within a million miles of okay.
I interviewed Governor Walz today of Minnesota, a state that is quite literally under invasion from the Trump regime. And we've seen what Donald Trump's done there. Donald Trump attacked the state of California. Talk to us about, if you were governor of California, what does it mean to stand up to Donald Trump if he does a surge and starts sending in ICE and Border Patrol, Gestapo at the levels that we saw for a period of time in Los Angeles, but does that at large? And then to an even greater extent, what he's done in Minnesota. If he brings that to California, what do you do as governor?
I think I've thought about this, Ben. And I want to say, I think there are three things that I would want to do. One is, of course, we're going to use the legal system. We're going to use all the state laws. We're going to use the federal laws. We're going to sue till the cows come home. Rob Bonta has done that as Attorney General. We are going to use what remains of our legal system, particularly the state legal system, to hold people to account. That is the first step. The second step is we need to channel what the civil rights movement did when a violent, corrupt, illegal government was attacking African Americans across the country and killing them sometimes. And that is to win in the court of public opinion. And I think it's absolutely critical for the governor of California, for me as governor of California, to be all over the place, documenting, speaking, and describing the different system that California and values that California stands for. Making the comparison extremely clear that what they are doing is wrong. And we have a system that's been built over a long time about protecting people, rule of law, democracy, all the things that they're attacking. We need to be standing up for all the time and making the point, using videos in particular as a way of making a very clear distinction about what we're trying to accomplish and what they're doing. But lastly, I think the third thing is this. I said three things. The third thing, I would go there. I would try and be a presence on the ground. I would want to be part of the organized resistance to make the point that civil society, the leaders of civil society, are on the ground. I don't think there's any substitute for physical presence. And I think that's critical. I think it's important to be on the streets, in the streets, representing the values and the people of California in the face of invasion and violence.
Tom, where can people learn more about the campaign?
Well, Tom Steyer for governor.com. We're on all the social media platforms. We are trying very hard to reach Californians where they are and to represent the working people of this state. When I started running, I knew that this was going to be a critical time in multiple ways. I believe it will only get more critical, and the willingness to stand up and tell the truth, whether it's about fairness in taxes in our society and take on the interests, whether it's standing up to a criminal administration. I think California is at the crossroads, and I want to say this. We can do something amazing here, Ben. We have the ability to create a society that is better than any society in the history of the planet Earth. And we're going to have to fight to get that done, and we're going to have to stand up for it, and we're going to have to imagine it. We're going to have to understand what it is we're trying to create together so that, in fact, all of the decisions about corporate tax loopholes, all of the decisions about healthcare, all of the decisions about what we do with our community colleges fit into a vision of what this society, this state, this 40 million people stand for and what we're creating. And I believe that is why I'm running for governor, is to have that vision, to make those specific decisions fit that vision and basically have the state that creates the future and brings everybody along for the prosperity.
Tom Steyer, thanks for joining us.
Ben, thank you very much for having me.
Everybody hit subscribe. Let's hit that 6 million subscribers this month.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.